Welcome back to the Motivated Mind Zone. Glad to have you here. So if you're an English learner, or honestly, anyone who's ever tried to explain a complex idea, you know that feeling, that confusion around if-then statements.
Oh, yeah. We're talking about English conditionals.
Exactly. And there's this weird paradox, right? They're totally essential for getting to that next level of fluency, but at the same time, they're probably the biggest source of frustration.
It's so true. It feels like a grammatical hall of mirrors. You think you've learned one rule, and then suddenly the whole tense system shifts for the next situation.
Right. You're using a past tense word to talk about the future, or this super complicated past perfect thing to talk about something that never even happened.
And we know that's why you're here. You need that clarity.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
This deep dive is our way of giving you a shortcut to really understanding them. We're not just going to read from a textbook. We're going to give you the logic, the specific scenarios, and the real-life context you actually need. We're going to tackle the four main types: zero, first, second, and third, and break down not just the rules, but why a native speaker would choose one over the other.
The mission is pretty simple, really. By the end of this, you should be able to just, you know, instinctively feel the difference between something that's a certainty, something that's likely, something that's unlikely, and something that's totally impossible in English.
And we are staying focused today.
Laser focused. We know the mixed conditional is out there, but we're intentionally saving that one for another time. We really want to make sure this foundational knowledge is crystal clear.
Okay, and just one quick pro tip before we really jump in. This is for anyone working on their speaking and pronunciation.
Oh, this is a great one.
Try shadowing along with us as you listen. If you actually repeat what we're saying and you try to match our rhythm and intonation, you'll find these really complex structures start to feel more natural. They just embed themselves in your muscle memory.
It's an incredibly powerful technique. It really is.
All right, let's do this. Let's unpack it. Where do we start?
We have to start with the foundation. I mean, to master conditionals, you have to know what they are logically. Fundamentally, they're just sentence structures we use to talk about cause and effect.
But for different realities.
Right, exactly. For possibilities, for consequences, for totally hypothetical situations.
So at its absolute most basic level, every single one of these sentences is saying, if this one thing happens, then this other thing will follow.
It's pure logic. If A, then B. But the trick is that the B part, the result, it changes completely depending on how real A is.
Okay, so you mean, like, is A scientific fact?
Right. Is it always true? Is it pretty likely to be true? Or is it completely imaginary?
And the little word that signals all of this is, of course, if.
That's the crucial word. It introduces the if clause. That's the condition, the thing that has to happen first.
So every conditional sentence has these two parts. You've got the if part, which is the condition,
Yeah.
and then you've got the result part, the consequence.
And what trips a lot of learners up is that you can flip them around.
Oh, yeah. You can say, if I study, I pass. Or you can say, I pass if I study.
The meaning is identical, but I'd say most of the time, native speakers tend to put the if clause first. It just feels a little clearer, you know? You set the condition, then you state the result.
Right. If you put it first, use a comma. If I study, comma, I pass.
Exactly. And the real complexity, the thing we're here to untangle, is that the verb tense in that result part has to perfectly match the reality you set up in the if part.
So if you're talking about a fact, you use one tense. If you're talking about an imaginary past, you use a totally different one.
And if you mix them up, say using a future tense to talk about a scientific fact, the sentence it breaks. It stops making sense to a native speaker.
Okay, so the key to making all four of these click isn't just memorizing rules.
Not at all. It's about understanding the logic. You have to ask yourself first, what is the relationship here? Is the situation always reliable? Is it completely impossible? Once you get that, the grammar just becomes the tool to express it.
All right, I'm ready. Let's start with the absolute baseline, the easiest one,
The zero conditional.
total certainty.
This is your go-to for anything that's a fact, a scientific law, a general truth. Things that are reliable, consistent, and happen every single time the condition is met.
Guaranteed cause and effect.
Yep. And the structure is so simple because it reflects that unchanging truth. It's just present simple in both parts of the sentence.
So, if plus present simple, comma, present simple.
Let's use the classic example. If you heat water to 100 degrees Celsius, it boils.
That happens every single time. It's not a maybe, it's a law of physics.
Precisely. Or a general truth about people. If I drink coffee late at night, I can't sleep. For me, that's a fact. It's a reliable outcome.
And here's the key insight, I think, for the zero conditional. Because that result is so guaranteed, you can almost always swap the word if for the word when.
Yes, that's the acid test.
Let's try it. When you heat water to 100 degrees, it boils. Works perfectly.
When I drink coffee at night, I can't sleep. Again, perfect. It shows the certainty. If you try to swap them and it sounds weird, you're probably not in the zero conditional anymore.
You're likely dealing with the first conditional, which we'll get to.
Exactly. So, for routines, habits, facts, reliable things, zero conditional, no maybes, just what happens.
Okay, so let's hear this in action. We're going to drop into a conversation at a gym. It's two people, Riley and Jordan, just talking about their routines. And you should listen for how all their if statements are about these reliable personal truths.
So Riley kicks it off talking about their own body, which is a perfect use case, they say. If I don't warm up properly, my knees start hurting.
That's it. Cause and effect. The cause is not warming up. The inevitable effect for them is knee pain. It's not a prediction. It's just what happens.
It's a known outcome from their experience.
Yeah.
Then Jordan chimes in with a similar idea. If I skip stretching entirely, I'm basically useless the next day.
Again, not predicting the future. Just summarizing a constant result based on their body's rules.
Then they start complaining about the gym environment itself, like the air conditioning. Riley says if they turn the AC up too high, the whole place becomes freezing.
Which is just a statement of fact. And the opposite is also true. If it's too warm in here, nobody can focus on their workout.
Right, that's a general truth. Uncomfortable temperature leads to poor focus. It's a reliable mechanism.
And this is where it gets interesting, with their personal rules around diet. Riley says, if I don't get protein within an hour after training, my muscles recover way slower.
Okay, this is a great example. Notice the verb in the result is still present simple. Recover. They are stating a general principle of their own biology.
A lot of learners might try to say, my muscles will recover slower.
They would. But that little word will suddenly shifts it. It makes it sound like a one-time prediction about the future, which is first conditional. But because Riley is describing a consistent biological process for them, a truth, they stick with the present simple.
That distinction is everything. If it's a rule, use present simple. Jordan is the same thing with hydration.
Yeah. If I don't drink enough water during my workout, I get terrible headaches later. It's their reliable pattern.
And they even bring in a mental aspect. Riley says, if I listen to upbeat music while working out, I can push myself harder.
Now, that word can is interesting. It's a modal verb, but it still works in the zero conditional here.
Why is that?
Because can is expressing a consistent ability or capacity. The ability to push harder always exists when the music is on. It's part of the reliable mechanism.
Okay. So if they had said, I will push myself harder, that would be different.
Completely. That would be a prediction about a specific workout in the future. But by using can, they're describing a strategy that always works for them. It enables them.
That makes sense. And they even have conflicting personal truths, which is a great point.
Right. Riley says, if I work out in the morning, I have way more energy.
But Jordan has the opposite experience. If I exercise too early, I feel exhausted by noon.
And both are using the zero conditional correctly. The fact that their personal truths are different doesn't matter. For each person, the statement is reliably and consistently true.
So, to sum it up, the zero conditional is all about dependability. Your system, your habits, the rules of your world. You use it when you can count on it.
And that wraps up certainty. So now, let's take one big step away from that certainty and into the world of possibility.
Let's move to the first conditional.
This is where the logic shifts. We're not talking about universal facts anymore. We're talking about real situations that are likely to happen in the future, but they're not guaranteed.
Okay, so contingencies, variables.
Exactly. And because the result is in the future and depends on something that hasn't happened yet, the grammar has to show that.
Right, so the structure is we keep the present simple in the if part.
Because the condition is a present decision or a future event we're thinking about now.
But the result part changes. It uses the future. So will plus the base verb.
And that's our structure. If plus present simple, will plus base verb. The classic example is always about the weather. If it rains tomorrow, I'll stay home.
It might rain, it might not. That's the condition. But the probable future outcome of that condition is that I'll stay home.
It's the grammar of planning and predicting, like, if you study hard, you will pass the exam.
Passing is likely, but it's not 100% certain, like water boiling.
Never. Life always has variables. And that's why we need the first conditional.
And this is where it gets more flexible in real life, isn't it? It's not always will.
Oh, absolutely not. You have so much nuance available. You can use other modal verbs like can, may, or might to show different levels of certainty.
Okay, so give me an example.
Let's compare. If you arrive early, you will get a good seat. That's pretty strong prediction.
Okay.
If you arrive early, you can get a good seat. Now, I'm just telling you, the opportunity exists. You have the ability to get one.
Right. And what about might?
If you arrive early, you might get a good seat. That shows an even lower probability. Maybe it's a popular event. The modal verb really fine-tunes the meaning of the consequence.
And in spoken English, especially American English, people use going to all the time, right?
All the time. If the weather's nice, we're going to have a barbecue. It means the same thing as we'll have. It's just a bit more colloquial for a plan. The logic is identical.
So the big takeaway here is that the first conditional is the strategic tool. It's for managing future possibilities.
It's how we plan, how we set goals, and how we deal with things that might go wrong.
All right, let's hear this in action. Our scenario is two tourists, Casey and Dylan, trying to plan their day in a new city. Their whole conversation is just a series of first conditional negotiations.
They start with simple navigation, where Will feels pretty certain. Casey says, if we head left here, we'll reach the old town in about 15 minutes.
Okay, that's a straightforward prediction. Action A leads to probable result B.
But then, immediately, the variables appear. Dylan brings up time management. If we spend too long at the market, we might miss the museum.
And that word might is so important there. Why not will?
Because it's not a guarantee they'll miss it. Maybe the museum line will be short, or they'll walk really fast. Might perfectly captures that reduced certainty. It's a risk, not a definite outcome.
That's a perfect example of that modal flexibility you were talking about.
It is. Then they get to the weather, which is, the ultimate first conditional topic. If the weather stays clear, the views will be incredible.
It's a strong prediction based on the variable of clear skies.
But they have a backup plan. But if it gets cloudy, we'll still have a good time. They're adapting. The consequence of a cloudy sky isn't a ruined day. It's just a different kind of good day.
And they use it for modern problems too, like their phones. Casey says, if my phone dies, we are basically lost.
Yeah, notice the result there is in the present tense, are lost. But it's referring to that immediate state they'll be in, so it still carries that first conditional logic of a realistic future consequence.
And they immediately plan for that contingency.
Right. If your battery gets low, you can let me know and we'll find a cafe to charge it. The word can shows the ability they have to solve the problem if it happens.
They also use it to set goals for the next day. If we wake up early enough tomorrow, we can catch the first train for the day trip.
Again, can. It highlights the ability, the opportunity they will have, provided they meet the condition of waking up early.
And then there's the flip side, the realistic consequence of a bad choice tonight. If we stay out past midnight tonight, we're never going to make that train.
I love that one. The use of "we're never going to" is so natural and emphatic. It defines that future consequence so clearly.
So this whole dialogue just shows that the first conditional is the absolute workhorse of future planning in English. It's all about linking today's choices to what's probably going to happen tomorrow.
And now we take another huge leap. We're leaving the world of what's real and possible.
And we're jumping into the deep end of pure imagination. Welcome to the second conditional.
This is where we talk about things that are unreal, or at the very least, highly unlikely to happen now or in the future.
So we're talking dreams, wishes, hypothetical situations.
Giving advice, yep. Anything that's contrary to the facts as they are right now.
Okay, and this is the one I think that really trips learners up. Because the structure feels weird. You're using a past tense word, but you're not talking about the past.
You're not. The structure is if plus past simple, would plus base verb.
So why the past simple? What is it doing there?
That is the million-dollar question. The key thing to get your head around is that the past simple here is not a time marker. It's a logical marker. It's a signal of remoteness, of unreality.
Like a little flag.
Exactly. It's a flag that tells the listener, hey, what I'm about to say is not real. We are entering imagination mode. English uses the past tense to create that distance from present reality.
Okay, a flag for imagination mode. I like that. It creates a firewall between what's true and what's imagined.
It does. And then the result has to follow suit. So it uses the hypothetical modal, would. So the classic example, if I won the lottery, I would buy a house.
Winning the lottery is super improbable. So you use the past simple won to signal that unreality, and then would buy for the imagined consequence.
Or for giving advice, which is all about imagining a different reality. If I were you, I would take that job. I am not you. That's an impossible condition, so the structure has to be unreal.
Okay, we have to talk about that. The verb to be. That's the most famous quirk of this conditional.
It is. Formally and traditionally, you use were for every single person. If I were you, if he were here, if she were the boss.
Wow. Why not was?
It's basically a leftover piece of the old subjunctive mood. That word were is the strongest possible signal that you are in a counterfactual, non-real situation.
But you hear people say was all the time.
You absolutely do. In casual spoken English, you will hear if I was rich constantly. And while it's technically not the formal rule, it's so common that it's just accepted in conversation.
So for a learner, what's the best advice?
Master were, it's always correct, it's clear, and it shows you understand the grammar. But don't be shocked when you hear was. Just recognize it as a casual variant.
Got it. And just like with the first conditional, we have other modals we can use, right? Not just would.
For sure. You can use could or might. Would suggests what you definitely do. Could suggest the ability you'd have. And might suggests a less certain possibility.
Can you give me an example?
Okay. If I spoke French, I would move to Paris. That's my definite hypothetical plan.
Right.
If I spoke French, I could move to Paris. Now I'm just talking about the ability I would have. The opportunity would be open to me.
So the unreal condition is the same. I don't speak French, but the nuance of the consequence changes.
Precisely. This is the grammar of what if.
Okay, so let's listen to two friends, Harper and Sage, just kind of riffing on their dreams and wishes. You'll hear how this structure lets their imagination run wild.
They start with the ultimate fantasy. Harper says, if I could live anywhere in the world, I'd probably choose New Zealand.
See, right away, could live. That's the past form. It signals this isn't a real plan. And then the contraction, I would. Very natural.
Then Sage uses that classic setup. If money weren't an issue, I'd travel nonstop for a few years. And there's that perfect formal weren't. The reality is money is an issue. So this is pure dreaming.
They even get into these big societal wishes. Harper says, if the government canceled all student loans tomorrow, I would literally cry tears of joy.
And that's a perfect use. It's an unlikely future event, so it triggers this hypothetical emotional consequence.
Then they go even further into Fantasyland. Superpowers.
Yeah, Sage says, if I could choose a superpower, I'd want teleportation. And then they explore the logical consequences of that impossible thing.
Right. They say if teleportation were real, the entire airline industry would collapse overnight.
They're applying real-world logic to a completely impossible condition, and the grammar has to reflect that. The unreality of the condition demands the unreality of the structure.
They also touch on time travel. If I went back in time, I just want to see historical events. Again, past simple, went back to talk about an imagined journey.
And the conversation about personal growth is a great example of using this for sort of self-advice. Harper says, if I were braver, I'd probably try more extreme things.
She's admitting she's not that brave right now, so the consequence of trying skydiving is totally unreal for her.
Now, Sage says something really interesting. If I were more confident, I could have applied for that job abroad last year.
Whoa, okay, let's break that down. The if part is second conditional, right? If I were more confident, that's an unreal present condition.
It is. But look at the result. I could have applied. That looks at the next conditional we're going to talk about.
The third conditional. So what is that?
That's actually a little sneak peek of a mixed conditional, but it starts with the second conditional logic. The condition is about her personality now. Her lack of confidence is an ongoing, unreal present state. And that present state had a consequence on her past.
Ah, okay. So because the unreal condition is now, it starts with the second conditional structure, even if the result happened in the past. That's subtle.
It's very subtle, but it shows how these structures can blend. The main point is the second conditional is the home of what if. It's how we explore alternatives to our current reality.
Right. We've done certainty, likelihood, and unlikelihood. There's only one left.
The final boss. The most complex structure because its reality is totally and completely locked in the past. The third conditional.
So here we're talking about things that did not happen. And because they're in the past, they are now impossible to change.
Exactly. The condition was not met, the result is over, and history is written. This is the grammar of regret, of criticism, but also sometimes of relief.
So how does the structure work? It has to be complex to talk about all that.
It is. We have to signal that the condition happened before another past moment. So for that, we need the past perfect tense in the if clause, that's had, plus the past participle.
And the result.
The result is the impossible alternate outcome. So that uses would have plus the past participle.
Okay, so the full structure is if plus past perfect, would have plus past participle.
Let's use an example. If I had studied harder, I would have passed the exam.
Okay, so had studied shows that the studying, or lack of it, happened before the exam. It's deep in the past.
Exactly. And would have passed describes the alternate reality, the impossible outcome that now only exists in your head. The real reality is, I didn't study and I didn't pass.
This conditional is so loaded with emotion, isn't it? It's almost always about regret, if only.
It often is. If only I'd left earlier, I wouldn't have missed my flight. But it can also be used to express huge relief.
How so?
If I had taken that job, I would have been stuck in that toxic office for years. In that case, you're so thankful the condition wasn't met, you dodged a bullet.
That's a great point. And there's one more advanced thing here, isn't there? That inversion thing.
Ah, yes. In very formal or dramatic English, you can actually drop the word if and flip the subject and the verb had.
So instead of if I had known,
You can say, had I known, I would have acted differently. It's not for everyday chat, but you'll see it in writing and hear it in speeches. It's good to recognize.
so third conditional is our time machine. It lets us look at what happened versus what might have been.
And accept that the moment has passed.
Okay, to really feel this one, Let's listen to Avery and Morgan looking back on a vacation that was a complete disaster. Their whole conversation is just a catalog of third conditional regrets.
They start with the most basic mistake. Morgan says, if we had checked the weather forecast, we wouldn't have gone that weekend.
Boom. There it is. They didn't
Yeah.
check the forecast. The consequence was they went and had a bad time. And notice that contraction.
Hmm.
If we'd checked, you'll hear that all the time.
Then they complain about the hotel. Avery says, if we had booked another hotel, we might have had a completely different experience.
Ooh, might have. So not would have.
Right. Would have implies a certain alternate past. Might have just suggests it was a possibility. It adds that little bit of nuance that maybe the other hotel would have been bad too, but maybe not.
I see. And what about the logistics?
A total failure. If we had made reservations ahead of time, we wouldn't have spent 2 hours looking for food that first night. They're directly linking their past failure to prepare with the stressful past consequence.
And some things were out of their control. If the roads had been better maintained, driving wouldn't have been so scary.
That's a criticism of an external reality. If that past fact had been different, their emotional experience would have changed.
And you mentioned relief. Did they find any?
They do. Morgan remembers a near disaster with the car. If you hadn't brought that extra spare tire, we would have been stuck for days.
Ah, so they're grateful that the condition was met. You brought the tire, which prevented a terrible outcome. That's the positive side of the third conditional.
And this is where the conversation gets really interesting. They move past just complaining and start to find a silver lining.
How do they do that?
Well, they realize one of their mistakes actually led to a good memory. Morgan says something like, if we hadn't missed our original train, we never would have seen that beautiful sunset from the hill.
Wow. So the mistake missing the train was the condition that led to an unexpectedly positive result.
Exactly. It shows that the third conditional isn't just for complaining, it's a tool for processing the past, for understanding how things, even bad things, connect. It turns complaining into analysis.
And they realized that if they just had lower expectations, the whole trip might have felt different. That's the real lesson.
That's it. And that ability to analyze the past, mistakes and all, is why this structure is so essential for advanced, reflective conversation.
So we've done it. We've made the whole journey certainty to impossibility.
We have.
Let's do a super quick rapid-fire recap just to lock it all in.
Let's do it. Zero conditional.
Facts and certainty. If plus present simple, present simple.
If you mix blue and yellow, you get green. It's a rule. You can swap if for when.
Okay. First conditional.
Real future possibility. If plus present simple, will plus base verb.
If I'm late, I'll text you. It's likely, but not guaranteed.
Perfect. Second conditional.
Unreal hypothetical now or in the future. If plus past simple, would plus base verb.
If I had $1 million, I would travel the world. It's a dream, using the past tense to signal it's not real.
And finally, third conditional.
Impossible past. If plus past perfect, would have plus past participle.
If she had listened, she wouldn't have made that mistake. It's about what might have been. The past is over.
And that's it. Each one has a specific logical job. The grammar is just the vehicle to do that job.
So the key, really, to making these feel automatic and natural is just practice. You have to use them.
You do. Don't just memorize the charts. Do what we said at the beginning. Shadow us. Listen for these in movies and conversations.
And try to use them. If you catch yourself making a plan for tomorrow, consciously try to use the first conditional.
Yeah.
If you're daydreaming, frame it with the second.
And remember the lesson from that disaster trip story. Mistakes are part of it. They're necessary. If you hesitate or get confused while trying to use one of these, that's a good sign. It means your brain is working on it.
That's a great final thought. We can even put it in a conditional.
We can. If we had not struggled with these structures ourselves at some point, we would not be able to explain them with any clarity today.
Keep testing those boundaries. Keep making those mistakes and keep learning.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. Until next time, happy learning.